welcome back to America's Forum. I'm J.D. Hayworth. As we approach Independence Day, the Founding Fathers wouldn't live in. That is the assertion of Cheryl Chumley, Washington Times writer and author of the new book, Police State: How Orwell's Nightmare is Becoming Our Reality. Cheryl, we thank you very much for taking time to Skype in with us today here on America's Forum.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
And Cheryl mentioned the founders. Just one question I have to clear up. One of our founders said July 2nd would be the day instead of July 4th. Do you know the name of that founder?
That would be John Adams. JD.
John Adams, in a letter to Abigail, I guess he thought when they introduced the Declaration, not when it was finally signed and ratified. But of course, we fought that war for independence, and then we established a Constitution in 1787. And one of the things there dealt with unreasonable search and seizures, especially in the Bill of Rights. Now, in the here and now, has technology outstripped our Constitution and our rights? What should we be doing?
Not just technology, but the entire militarization of police. Indiana just ruled a couple years ago that homeowners who live in the state cannot enter their homes. That was based on a domestic violence call where a police officer barged into the home without the owner's permission. It went up through the court system, and now the governor was forced to sign into law a provision that allows homeowners the right to take up arms against police who enter their homes. This is the state of America right now. It's not just technology that invades all aspects of Americans' privacies, but it's also militarized police who have taken on a more aggressive attitude than the Constitution should allow.
And Cheryl, we're talking more than a local constabulary here, a local police department. We see so many government agencies. Why on earth, it seems every cabinet level agency has its own SWAT team, for crying out loud. Is there a rationale for that?
The rationale for it is basically, in my view, that they can. When you have when you have American people who aren't aware what's going on behind the scenes at our federal level, then it's a lot easier for our government bureaucrats to take these actions. But now you have agencies like the Department of Agriculture, the IRS, of course, even the Library of Congress at one time having weapons and ammunition, Department of Homeland Security up in great amounts, greater than even our U.S. Army soldiers keep on hand. So these are events that Americans should watch with some alarm, especially when you have such an anti-Second Amendment rhetoric coming out of the White House.
And Cheryl, in this situation, what do you think is the goal of government, especially Homeland Security, buying up all that ammo that stands in stark contrast with our standing military?
Well, I stand with the Founding Fathers who warned that the goal of government, even if government doesn't admit it, is force and control. Government is force, our Founding Fathers said, and that's why they took such pains to create guiding and founding documents that would keep our republic alive and well. But in terms of what government is actually doing, you can look back on 2008 when President Obama made a campaign statement saying that he wanted to create a national civilian police force with equal authorities and powers to the military. That statement was dismissed by mainstream press, but if you look at what's going on, this is where we are.
And you mentioned that statement. I believe it came in Colorado Springs, of all places, when then Senator Obama was on the campaign trail. But we are seeing America change in many different ways. And in fact, right now, we see this influx of illegals across our border. Now, you mentioned the fact that the dominant media culture ignores certain things and that there's almost an Orwellian takeover of our language. I guess NBC News yesterday created a Twitter hashtag calling the refugees outside of Marietta, California, quote, refugee riders. Is this just the latest manifestation of Orwellian language, the type you wrote about in your book?
That's a perfect example. If you look at mainstream media's coverage of this immigration issue, it's all about poor children who are living in violence and poverty being forced to make this trek into America's borders. But what's really happened is Obama in 2012, when he issued an executive order delaying deportations of up to 800,000 illegals in this nation, he put the word out on the world streets: come to America if you're illegal. We will open the doors and not deport you. And now here we are, Obama making signs that he's going to issue yet more executive orders to keep our borders porous and open.
Cheryl, you strip away the Orwellian language for some tough talk. Constitution has been tossed in the same trash pile as the Bible. Is there a way for the United States in the year 2014 to restore both the Constitution and the Holy Bible to our bookshelves?
You bet, JD. I mean, this is America, the greatest country on earth. We are the nation of come from behind. And I truly believe that what happens on Capitol Hill is not reflective of what the average American is thinking and hoping and dreaming for this nation. As long as we have breath, as long as we have people who aren't afraid to speak out for what they believe in and hold fast to our founding principles, that our rights come from God, not government, there is definite hope that this nation can return to what it once was.
Cheryl, as you join us today across the river from Washington, D.C., we touched on this before with some other guests, but it seems that it's not so much Republicans versus Democrats or left versus right as it's right versus wrong and Washington versus America. Is that the kind of fault line you're seeing?
Absolutely. And I notice, the last few weeks as I've done media coverage of my book, there are just as many people on the left as on the right who are interested in these issues. These issues that we're facing in America right now, they're core American issues. They're issues that strike, constitutional God, not government. And they're concerned that our government is encroaching on all aspects of our lives, from preventing little girls from setting up lemonade stands unless they pay permitting fees, to homeowners being able to build a shed in their backyard because of federal environmental policies. These are things that affect all Americans across all party lines.
And Cheryl, as you were mentioning that, we have up a page from our parent website, Newsmax.com, the headline reading, Rasmussen poll, voters support Hobby Lobby religious exemption by a 10-point margin. That third branch of government, the judiciary, has the Supreme Court this week moved to restore some of these rights to freedom of religion with that decision?
I would say that that decision is something to cheer, but I don't think the 5-4 decision is something to cheer. As you just pointed out, 10% points of Americans, they support the Hobby Lobby side of that, but only 5 of 9 justices found the same reason to support. That was too close of a decision. I would have liked to have seen a 9-0 on that.
Cheryl, a couple of minutes remain. If you could indulge me right here, I'd like to get this from you. Given the research you have done, and certainly you've seen developments, vignettes play out, what is the most disturbing incident you report on in your book? And conversely, what do we do to solve the problems of ever-growing government and the erosion of individual liberties?
One of the most disturbing incidents that I covered in my book was a man in Nevada who was contacted by police who wanted to investigate a neighbor's domestic violence call. The man answered the phone. The police asked, "Can we use your home as a neighbor?" He said no. So why should he? It's his home. So a few minutes later, he had a knock on his door, and there were 5 police officers who demanded entry to use his home as a stakeout point. He would not let them in. So they smashed through his home with a battering ram, and once inside, they started ordering him around, pepper spraying his dog, him, and spray bullets. They ultimately ended up arresting him for obstruction of justice, obstructing their investigation, even though he was in his own home. Took him to jail, and meanwhile, he sat in jail while the officers roamed through their home and set up a stakeout. The next day, he was released. All the charges were dropped because they were bogus. He in turn turned around and sued for Fourth Amendment and Third Amendment offenses. But that something like that could happen in America is just a stark reality of where we are and how much we need to rally back against police force.
And to find the solutions, that's why we need to pick up your new book, Cheryl, Police State: How Orwell's Nightmare is Becoming Our Reality. Cheryl Chumley, writer for the Washington Times, we thank you for your time and your perspective today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Happy 4th.
And you have a glorious 4th in turn, Cheryl. Well, you just heard from Cheryl. We're interested in your take on this. Do you feel your constitutional liberties have been eroded? What about the paramilitary, the SWAT teams for cabinet-level agencies like the Agriculture Department? Why don't you tweet me at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum. There's also email and Facebook.